Right thinking leads to freedom. I tell you truly, insofar as you did it to one of these, my brothers, even to the least of them, you did it to me. Matthew 5:40. Right thinking can only come when one knows oneself. To know oneself, there must be discernment of all that is in the mind that influences the self. Ideas, desires, beliefs must be recognized, and their cause must be understood. Otherwise, one is caught up in these things and is influenced by them. The self being influenced by ideas, beliefs, tradition, whatever the case may be, when the self is then influenced, the reality cannot express itself, but this influence is being expressed. If your thought is molded to a pattern, your understanding will conform to this conditioning. Your thought feeling will be in accordance with your tradition or belief. Your thought shapes itself according to your background. If while in childhood you are influenced by religion, your adult life will be in accordance with what is fixed in the mind. Without self-knowledge, we build our illusions based on the background of one belief or another. But to experience the real, there must be infinite pliability of mind, a deep basic stillness where background, tradition, beliefs have been discerned and understood. What a wonderful truth we see here. When the mind is conditioned by belief, your thinking will be in accordance with these beliefs that are fixed in the mind. Your background, your training, your living are all being expressed and are hiding the reality that is itself free. Therefore, to free reality from all these things, they must be discerned and understood. The cause of the influencing and conditioning of the self must be understood. If this is not understood, there is no right thinking. Therefore, right thinking leads to freedom. And to know oneself, there must be discernment of all that is in the mind that influences the self. Anything that influences the self must be discerned and understood. Then you can see the mind of Christ. You can see the mind of the Master. You can see the freedom of the Christ. That is the only begotten Son of the Father, who in himself is complete and is in every other self. And unless this self eliminates from the mind all that influences it, all that conditions it, all that creates separation in it, there can be no understanding of reality that is in every other self. If the self then is caught up in these things, the self that is in every other self cannot be understood. Therefore, that is why Jesus said these words, I tell you truly, insofar as you did it to one of these, my brothers, even to the least of them, you did it to me. Therefore, there must be infinite pliability of mind. The mind must be so pliable that no matter what comes, it can be discerned and understood. But if there is a fixed idea in your mind, new ideas will never enter in. And besides, we know that ideas and beliefs are not the truth. What I say to you is not the truth. A statement of a thing is not the thing itself. I may talk about the truth, I may talk about life continuously to you, but what I am saying is not life. And if you will see that this is the deep understanding that you must acquire yourself through eliminating everything that's in the mind that hinders the true expression of life itself as known to the Master Jesus when he said, I and the Father are one. This pliability and tranquility is not the outcome of conflict, tradition, or separation. It comes into being with true understanding. And understanding comes with self-knowledge. You will readily see that without self-knowledge, you merely live in a state of contradiction and uncertainty. If you then do not understand yourself, how can you ever understand anyone else? If your thought feeling is caught up in these things which create separation, which causes you to be antagonistic to another, while the life in you and the life in another is never antagonistic to itself, how then can you reconcile your antagonism? Only through your beliefs, your traditions, your ideas, these concepts you hold in the mind which are influencing and conditioning you. And without self-knowledge, what you think, feel has no basis. Without self-knowledge, enlightenment is impossible. When you see that you are the world, that your neighbor, your friend, your so-called enemy is yourself, you'll begin to understand yourself. To understand the complex, the mind-heart must be extremely simple. The mind-heart cannot be conditioned. It must be simple and free. The truth is distorted by ideas, theories, concepts, creeds, beliefs, etc. These limit and confuse the mind. The mind must be freed from these distortions, otherwise there is no awareness of the real, which is beyond mind, which is unlimited and free. How can you understand that which is unlimited and free when your mind is caught up and conditioned, when there is concepts that are concrete, which are influencing you all the time, and your thought feeling is the expression of these things and not the expression of reality, which is love and wisdom? How can you ever then become aware of that which is freedom itself. When you are caught up in these things, don't you see this is the great truth that I am teaching you, I'm showing you the way. I can't tell you what truth is, and if anybody says they can tell you what truth is, you will know that they know nothing at all about it. Truth is beyond mind. Truth is reality. Truth is life. We can become aware of it only when the mind is free from these concepts and conditionings. Then there is awareness of reality. Not what it is, but that it is. And in this you can say, I and the Father are one. When the consciousness then becomes free from the influences of these things, then it becomes the vehicle through which the consciousness of God manifests itself freely. Then there is freedom from fear, freedom from everything, because there is no conditioning of the mind preventing that freedom. Unless the mind is freed from these illusions, what you know of the truth is but an idea, an image of the truth. And truth reality is none of these. But through self-knowledge comes awareness of truth reality. Then there is no rushing here or there. There is no anxiety in case you cannot find it, for it is ever present now. Realization of the presence that is ever present becomes a reality to you when you do not look for this outside yourself. When any outside agency has no longer any effect upon you, then I say you will find that reality that is within yourself and is free and is the power of God that has been given to man from the beginning. The Word that was with God. That Word was God, and that Word was made flesh. The continuous striving to be something you imagine you should be, to ensure eternal life and all that goes with it, creates a constant struggle. This struggle ceases when you realize that you cannot comprehend that which is beyond the mind, but you can discern that which is hindering its true expression. Some will say that they can tell what God is. Don't keep those kind of people. And all the time they are preaching to you something about which is truth, but all the time it is the relative. It is something outside yourself. And you have to look outside yourself for this God. And what does this God become to you? An idol, an image. What is an idol, an image of any value to any individual? Then become concrete concepts which hinder the true expression of that reality that is within you. This true experience can only be a reality when we free our mind from the past, the future, from preconceived ideas that blunt the mind heart. The creativeness that is in the mind heart comes forth into true expression in form from within. Therefore, transformation comes from within and not from without. I am is the doorway that leads to the Father. This doorway must be kept clear and open. Through this doorway the Father comes forth into expression in the individual, and you become the chosen one. how true that is. In the beginning, we read, Moses saw this clearly when he explained the burning bush in Exodus, when he says he saw a bush fire, and the bush was not consumed, and from within the bush the word spoke, I am. Go and tell my people, I am is my name for all time. The bush, that was a fire, was the soul and body. The life within it was the fire, was giving expression. Yet the bush was not consumed, but the life is within the body, and the body is the bush that is not consumed with the fire of life. Life then spoke the word, I am. Go and tell my people, I am is my name for all time. Here was the story then that I am in man. When you recognize it completely, freed from all these influences that bear upon it that come from outside, then the I am shall be clear, and there will the Christ manifest in you, as it did in Jesus. He said, these words, these things I do, greater things you will do if you will but follow me. Remember, the word follow is a different thing to talk about me. When the individual is not conditioned by beliefs, traditions, limitation, and illusion, the Christ will show forth as the light of the world. I may talk, you may talk about reality, but what we say and think about reality is not reality itself. Any statement I make about reality is not reality itself. Reality is the livingness within you. Jesus said clearly, ye search the Scriptures and you think you have found eternal life, you make a mistake. In John 12, verse 44 and 45, Jesus cried aloud, he who believes in me, believes not in me, but in him who sent me. And he who beholds me, beholds him who sent me. Here he was showing this great truth, that he who beholds in me the living example of him who sent me will find the same livingness in himself. That is the truth that I want you to see, but I can't give it to you. You must find it yourself. In verse 49-50, for I have not spoken of my own accord. The Father who sent me, he it was who ordered me what to say and what to speak. And I know that his orders mean eternal life. Therefore, when I speak as the Father has told me. Here is the consciousness of one that is freed from all limitation. Here is a consciousness that is freed from all imitation. Here is a consciousness that is freed from everything that everyone has said about anything. Here is a consciousness that is freed from all creeds, dogmas, and beliefs. Here is a consciousness that gives expression to that which is behind it. That's why he said these words, for I have not spoken of my own accord, the Father who sent me. He it was who ordered me what to say and what to speak. And I know that his orders mean eternal life. Therefore, when I speak as the Father has told me. This was the Christ speaking. But note this, God, being all there is, created us free and unlimited like himself, meaning to created in his likeness, in himself, by himself. His consciousness, intelligence, and substance molded into form. Here is a great truth. When the mind is freed and unlimited, we are inspired by the Father. The Son knows the Father who is speaking through him only when he is freed from all illusion. Take this in, please. According to your faith, so it will be unto you, but your faith must not be limited or confused with a mind full of opposites, such as fear, faith, good, evil, health, ill health, success, failure, God and the devil, and all of these opposites that confuse the mind. Faith is always limited by fear when there is no understanding. Only when there is understanding is faith freed from fear, then becomes a weapon of creation in man. The creativeness in man comes forth as the manifestation of the consciousness of God, manifesting himself through his own creation. And there is no other way. This is why self-knowledge is so essential to freedom of the truth. If you try to comprehend the truth with a background of ideas caught up from Christianity with its changing interpretations, when one thing is worn out, a new one is created, you will live in the illusion of separation and ignorance. You will live in these ideas. You'll be expressing those ideas. You'll know nothing about reality, because what you have of reality is but an idea, a belief. Reality is not that. And you live in separation, which is the most destructive conditioning of the self, because it creates antagonism of destruction. If your mind is confused with the different concepts such as Buddhism and Mohammedanism, theosophy, etc., the reaction will be confusion, because you try to conform to these ideas and you judge everything on what you have accepted, whether it is true or not. These beliefs are but ideas, concepts, and will remain as such. But reality is none of these. Reality is greater than all creation. Yet it is one with all creation. Therefore, right thinking leads us towards freedom of truth. How many minds, you see, they talk such nonsense. I know perfectly well I was not blameworthy from this either. My mind was also confused at one time. I've told you so often when I went to the Himalayas that the master who met me there and I began to tell him all about what I knew, I thought I really knew a lot. But you will recognize clearly what I'm saying now. The most important thing is this, that what I was telling him, he said to me in these words, "My son, it doesn't matter very much whether it is true or not, does it? Therefore, all my learning, all my philosophy, everything that I had learned in the past had to be discarded because of the fact I was conditioning my mind. My thought feeling was in accordance with what I had learned. My thought feeling was nothing else but the expression of these ideas. It was not the expression of reality. And when I caught on to the truth of what he told me, it fell away from me. All these things fell away from me, and I knew that I had to discern everything that was influencing me, that was preventing the true expression of that which was real in itself. And that's what you have to do too. And I'll say to you too, every one of you, it's no different who you are. It doesn't matter very much whether it is true or not. Any concept, any belief, any idea you have, it does not matter whether it is true or not. Truth, reality, God the Father, are but names we give to life. But life is not a name. All these words are relative and are not truth. All the talking in the world about truth does not make truth a reality to you. We must find this reality in ourselves as the living expression of life itself. This is what Jesus did and what we must do if we are to be like him. And how did he do this? I can see him going away into the desert. 40 days and 40 nights there he wrestled with himself. He wrestled with the self. All the beliefs, all the ideas and concepts that ever entered into his mind. All these things he wrestled with, and he cleansed himself completely of them, and even cleansed himself of the self too. If you will see how clearly he makes it plain. He who seeks to retain his life will lose it, but he who gives up his life will save it. That is to say, that he who seeks to hold the self to be the self, and let the self rule, he will lose. But he who gives up the self into the greater self, then he will find that self. We must find this reality in ourselves as the living expression of life itself, as this is what Jesus did. We must do the same if we are to be like him. If you pattern your life after what you have read or learned from others, this will only lead you to conflict, sorrow, and confusion. You will only be imitating. You will not be thinking. True thinking only comes when you begin to discern what is in your mind. And your truth is nothing more but ideas and theories which cover up the real. So your conception of truth is but a continual movement from one illusion to another, from one teacher to another, while only leading you into further conflict. And when you are then filled with illusion and you are caught up in this illusion, you are in a prison of your own making. And any idea of God or anything whatsoever about Christ, you take it into this prison and you just the same as you were before. Freedom only comes when you discern the fact that you are in prison, and you discern the cause of this prison. You begin to see the walls and the doors and the windows of this prison, beginning to understand what it means to be in prison. But if your prison is irksome, you do not want freedom. No, you don't want freedom. You want to hang on to something. Therefore, you still remain in prison, but you want a more comfortable one. One with a sofa and a bed so you can lie on it, instead of lying on a stone floor or a wooden bed. And so forth, your prison is still a prison. And that's what people are doing today. All these pictures you have in your midst around the world today, I say this to you: to write books upon truth. But those who write books on truth are generally only searching for truth themselves and expressing their own ideas, and you try to imitate them. You will never find truth in a book. Neither will you find it in the Scriptures. You can only find it in yourself. You cannot define reality, for there is nothing with which you can compare it. It is beyond our mind. When you free your consciousness from limitation, it becomes then the I myself loses itself, and the nature is transformed. But there must be continued awareness of the whole, lest limitation and illusion enter in. How often has there been a spark of this freedom in your own consciousness? All of a sudden it's blotted out again. Lost. It comes again, it's lost. And you try to hang on to that little spark, this little memory of this tremendous flood of realization and freedom. I tell you, do not try to hold on to that. Otherwise, you are not having reality. You're only caught up in an experience, and an experience is not reality. You're only hindering the expression of that which is real. Therefore, you have to discern it, let it go, for new experiences to come. And reality will continue to give you experiences as long as you hold that awareness. When you try to cling on to these experiences, then you will prevent further experiences that which you really need and want. If you crave to be something which will ensure you a place in the eternal, your craving will lead you from one teacher to another, from one system to another, and this will lead you away from the ever-present reality that is within yourself. And instead of leading you to this which is real, it leads you away from it. The majority of people who are seeking will pause when there is a feeling of satisfaction. They think they have found the truth. But this only lasts for a short time. Then the hunt begins again with renewed effort along the path of illusion without understanding. So book after book is explored and digested with only one result. The mind becomes more confused. Only with understanding and awareness of the whole will books be of value to you. But there are few who know the freedom of truth. Those who write books on truth are generally those who are themselves seeking the truth. How wonderfully true this is. Unless you, with an understanding and awareness of the whole, go to the book, then you will see perhaps an inspired passage there that will be of value to you. But in the majority of cases, you will note that what the person is writing about, they'll know very little about at all. And when you know the truth, you go and read one of those books, and you will see how true it is. When the wholeness is understood, you will see how surely that person does not know the wholeness and awareness of it. So I say, be careful. Do not allow your mind to be caught up in ideas from books. You discern what is in your own mind. If you see an inspired passage, think about it. Reject it until such time as you have time to think clearly about it, in accordance with what you know through your own self-knowledge and understanding. The Master says, ye search the Scriptures, for in them you think you have everlasting life. You make a mistake. The reading of the Bible or any other book does not confer eternal life. This must be found within and not without. The everlasting reality can only be understood in the fullness of the present, discerning everything that surrounds you as relative, while aware of the real within you, not in some distant future, which is but a passing fantasy. The real is not something that you can imagine or fancy. What you imagine or fancy is not the truth reality. What you have is but an image in the mind. To understand the whole, there must be non-attachment to ideas and beliefs, the past or the future. What is spiritual or what is not spiritual? When you pattern your life after these, there is fear, limitation, and confusion. And most people who think they are spiritual will always talk about what is spiritual and what is not spiritual. And what is their mind caught up in? Images, ideas. Do they know reality? No, their mind is away from it. When the conscious becomes aware that itself is the world, your neighbor, your friend, your enemy. When you yourself know these to be yourself, then I say you learn something about yourself. How can you help another if you do not understand yourself? How is it possible for you to lift another out of these fogs that are in the mind if your own mind is in the fog? How can you take a mind out of confusion if your own mind is confused? If you look into your own mind heart, you will find inherited theories of right and wrong. The mind heart may be filled with religion and theories to which you conform, and there is no room for love and wisdom. What is necessary is that we keep the mind heart free so that love and wisdom can manifest without hindrance. It was this we see strongly enough in Jesus himself. In John 12, verse 27, now my soul is troubled. And what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. Jesus answered, the hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Truly, truly, I tell you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains a single grain. But if it dies, it bears rich fruit. He who loves his life loses it, and he who cares not for his life in this world will preserve it for eternal life. Here is the clearness. What the Master saw. Unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains a single grain. Here is the self again. The self that holds itself, separate to any other self, is deceived. But it must die in the whole. There it shall preserve itself in the whole, and shall be the whole, and the whole shall be it. It then bears rich fruit. He who loves his life loses it, and he who cares not for his life in this world will preserve it for eternal life. If anyone serves me, let him follow me. Think those words over. They are most important. They are not just mere words. You have got to realize the meaning of. And where I am, there shall my servant also be. If anyone serves me, my Father will honor him. He's speaking from the Christ, the only begotten Son of the Father. In verse 23, Jesus said those words when the Gentiles came to see him. This glory meant the drawing of all men, both Jews and Gentile, into the kingdom of Christ, of God, his kingdom. The grain of wheat shows the eternal life. It cometh out of so-called death of the body, the death of the self, so that you see the glory of self-sacrifice of the self. So that when this glory of self-sacrifice and complete giving up to the Christ, to God himself, the self then takes on a new transformation. This transformation comes from within and not from without. That is the ever-present now. Verse 25, serve means to minister unto others and to follow in the Master's ways, giving of the Christ within to all, no matter who they are. That is love and compassion and forgiveness. And in those particular words of He, in Matthew chapter 5:40, I tell you truly, insofar as you did it to one of these, my brothers, even to the least of them, you did it to me. That reads both ways, whether you did a kindness or an unkindness. But I will tell you this, you are not a kind person if you are kind to one and unkind to another. You are not a loving person if you love one and hate another. Verse 27, my soul is disquieted, troubled. What am I to say? Father, save me from this hour. Nay, it is something else that has brought me to this hour. I will say, Father, glorify thy name. I am. Then came a voice from heaven, I have glorified it, and will glorify it again. In his soul he held the fullness of his human life. As every other person does, you and me. There was the temptation to withdraw from his great task to reveal the Christ to all, Jew and Gentile alike. For doing this, he knew that his own people would reject him because they thought they were the chosen people. But he says, Father, glorify thy name. And a voice comes from heaven, I have glorified it and will glorify it again. Verse 32, Jesus says again, but I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all men to myself. All men. Showing when the Christ is lifted up. And in these words, As Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up. And this is the great, wonderful, each and every one of us, it has to happen. Son of Man has to be lifted up. This indicates through the revealing power of the crucifixion, revealing this eternal life of the Christ within, all will be drawn to the Christ that lives now as the light in the world, as the only begotten Son of the Father, showing that the Christ, as in the unique position of being in the world, yet not of the world, not born of flesh and blood, but by the word that flows from the mouth of God, meaning the life of the Father. The breath of life is the life of God in man, and is the Word that was in the beginning with God. This then is the great redeeming power of the Christ. Unique, being in the world, but not of the world. Born, not of flesh and blood. Call no man your father on earth, for one is your Father, who is in heaven. Verse 44, Jesus cried aloud, "He who believes in me, believes not in me, but in him who sent me. And he who beholds me, beholds him who sent me. I have come as the light into the world, that no one who believes in me may remain in the dark." Here again he reveals the universality of the light of the Christ in man. Verse 47, "If one hears my words and does not keep them, hold them." The old version says, "believe not." It is not I who judge him, for I have not come to judge the world, but to save the world. The word I have spoken will judge you. The word I have spoken will judge you, because you will see it in yourself. And it is when the word becomes real in yourself, then that word will judge you. For I have not spoken of my own accord. The Father who sent me, he it was who ordered me what to say and what to speak. And I know that his orders mean eternal life. Therefore, when I speak as the Father has told me. These verses 44 to 50 describe the summary of the Master's teaching. Believe in the Christ to believe in God the Father. Therefore his teachings are that we must discern all that hinders the expression of the Christ within. This hindrance is lack of love for our fellow men, belief in separation. These are the great enemies of the Christ, which will eventually be put under his feet. These two are the cause of all misery in the world. And so far as you did it unto one of these, my brethren, even to the least of them, you did it unto me. Benediction. O infinite splendor, in thy infinite creation, the rhythm of thy eternal voice is heard everywhere. The infinitude of form arises from within thy heart, which beats with everlasting joy, and it is this that throbs within my soul. I have heard thy voice through the Christ within, revealing all as one and one as all. Now I know the words of the Master are true. He that beholds me beholds him who sent me. O glorious one.